Welcome to Hadrai'da Ascendant, a new first-person TCG for 2 to 6 players where you play as a mercenary thrust into combat with only your own equipment and spells as you draw, play, and roll your way to victory. Through a combination of dice rolls and card effects, the goal of this game is to reduce your opponent's HP to 0 before they do the same to you. There are 6 distinct zones, each with their own function. Your arsenal is a pile of face-down cards that act as your main deck, where all active, passive, gambit, and Juman cards go. Your hand consists of cards that you have drawn from the arsenal. All cards can only be played from your hand. The battlefield is the area where cards are played and activated. The fountain acts as a resource deck, housing your stamina cards, Genki, and finesse. These cards can be face-up. The scrapyard is where cards go when they are used or destroyed in battle. Certain card effects can bring cards back from this pile and allow you to use them again. And finally, the abyss is where spent stamina cards and normal cards that are permanently removed from the game go. The crux of gameplay in Ascendant is a standard D20 die. Throughout the course of the game, you will be taking turns rolling the die as you attempt to attack and defend against your opponent. Certain card effects will also use dice rolls in order to decide the outcome of an effect. Now for the fun part, the cards. Our game uses a unique Go Fish-style way of playing cards. Each card has a number which signifies its cost, or how many copies of that specific card you will need in your hand in order to play as a stack onto the battlefield. Your arsenal must have a minimum of 40 cards, capped at a maximum of 60 cards. Active cards must be activated or turned sideways at the correct time to gain their effect. Passive cards constantly provide an effect while on the battlefield. Gambit cards consume themselves when used, which sends a number of cards from the stack to the scrapyard or the abyss. Jumon cards can take aspects from actives, passives, or gambits. You may only use Jumons of the same paragon in a deck. In order to activate a Jumon, you must first spend the Genki of its associated paragon. If there are multiple card stacks with the same name, only one of those stacks can be activated, consumed, or used per turn. The fountain is an optional deck that can have up to 20 cards. The ratio of Genki to finesse is up to you. Genki is used to activate Juman cards, while finesse is used to activate additional effects of certain cards. Generators create and store the corresponding stamina cards to be used in combat. Reaction cards are cards that are played face down. They can be activated by flipping them face up during any turn, as long as the reaction condition is fulfilled. We will now get into the gameplay of Ascendant. At the beginning of every game, all players will do a small draft to form their starting hand. To set this up, first shuffle your arsenal and deal out 5 separate piles, each with 3 cards. Next, pick up the first pile, choose 1 card, and add it to your hand. Set the other 2 cards on top of your arsenal. Repeat this process until you end up with 5 cards in your starting hand. You cannot look ahead nor go back to previous piles, so be strategic in your picking. You want complete card sets, so it is a good idea to choose any repeats when going through the 5 piles. Once you are finished, shuffle your arsenal. Next, all players will roll 1d20 die. Whoever has the highest roll gets to choose who goes first. In the event of a tie, re-roll until one player rolls higher. Each turn consists of 5 phases: opening, engage, strike, counterattack, and finishing. At the beginning of every turn, all players either draw 1 card from their arsenal or purge 1 card from the scrapyard to the abyss. If you have no cards left in your arsenal and scrapyard at the start of a turn, you automatically lose. Next, all activated card stacks are reset, resolving any remaining effects. The turn player may play any complete card stacks onto the battlefield. The turn player must then declare a ranged or melee attack, regardless of if they have any weapons on the battlefield. In the case of team or battle royale matches, they must also declare the target of their attack. Once the attack is declared, the turn player may choose a weapon to use for their attack. Only 1 weapon can be activated unless the card has barrage, in which case you can use up to 2, even if they have the same name. Cards that affect engage rolls are able to be used by all players before the rolls are made. In a ranged attack, the turn player rolls non-contested for aim. If the roll result is 11 or higher, the aim check succeeds and the turn player proceeds to strike phase. If the result is 10 or lower, the aim check fails and the turn player proceeds to the finishing phase instead. Any cards that modify aim will impact this roll. In a melee attack, the turn player and the target player roll contested for speed. If the turn player rolls equal to or higher than the targeted player, the speed check succeeds and the turn player proceeds to the strike phase. If the targeted player rolls higher, the speed check fails and the turn player proceeds to the finishing phase instead. Any cards that modify speed will impact this roll. In a ranged attack, the turn player and the target player roll contested for range damage and defense respectively. After the rolls, the damage dealt is equal to the turn player's roll minus the targeted player's roll. Any cards that modify range damage and defense will impact these rolls. Whether this attack succeeds or not, proceed to the finishing phase. In a melee attack, the turn player and the target player roll contested for melee damage and defense respectively. If the turn player rolls equal to or higher than the targeted player, the damage dealt is equal to the turn player's roll. Any cards that modify melee damage and defense will impact these rolls. If the attack succeeds, proceed to the finishing phase. However, if the targeted player rolls higher, proceed to the counterattack phase. The targeted player rolls non-contested for a counterattack. The damage dealt is equal to the roll minus 10. Only cards with the keyword counterattack will impact this roll. After this roll, proceed to the finishing phase. All players have the ability to activate applicable card effects, starting with the turn player passing clockwise. Once all effects are resolved, the turn is over and passes clockwise to the next player. As with all dice-based games, everyone wants those coveted natural 20s. If a player rolls a natural 20, it is considered a critical success, and they automatically win the roll. Their next roll gains advantage, which means they roll 2d20 and select the higher result. However, if the critical happens in the turn player's strike roll or the targeted player's counterattack roll, they gain a second roll. This second roll is divided by 2, rounded down, and added to their previous roll. In the result of a critical tie, both players will gain the corresponding critical effect, with the tie going to the attacker. Now you have enough information to play Hadrai'da Ascendant. Feel free to go back and rewatch as many times as you need, or check out the official rulebook located on our website if there's anything that might seem a bit confusing. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you on the battlefield. Till the 7 return.